Matthew Hans. The Hero's Journey. The Hero's Journey, Matthew Hans.
Ladies and gentlemen, who here loves a great story? I think we all do. You see, every story has a beginning, a middle, and an end. The decisions we make in our lives ultimately become our destiny. The challenges, the wins we endure. So one day, we can become our own hero of our story. Earlier this year, I came across a storytelling framework that absolutely fascinated me, and it was called The Hero's Journey. Now, there's three key parts to this. First, the departure, when the hero leaves the familiar behind. Next, the trials, when the hero now is faced with a new set of challenges. And finally, the return, when he now possesses this newfound wisdom. Today, I'm sharing my own journey. One that took me from all the way from California to Florida, inspired by one of my favorite childhood superheroes, Superman, and how we can all embark on our own hero's journey. First, the departure. It all started on a special night. My dad and I were attending a wedding, and we were dressed to the nines in our tuxedos. After the church ceremony, we hopped into his truck, and we made our way down to the reception. At one point, we sat on this bench atop a hillside overlooking all of Sacramento, California. Now you could feel the cool breeze, the music, the laughter, kids running, dancing. All of this was in the air. And at one moment, I casually checked my phone, and there it was. An acceptance letter, Florida State University. Oh no, I was elated. I jumped up, hugged my dad. I said, whoa, calm down, buddy, what's going on? But as we were staring at this glowing city together, I was dreaming of what my life would become in Florida. And it also reminded me when I dream of one of my favorite childhood superheroes when he left everything behind, Superman. You see, growing up, I always felt a bit like Clark Kent, curious about the world beyond my small hometown, but never venturing out too far. Growing up, my adventures were simple. I'd run around the block, break my arm, pick fights with my sisters, and just travel to nearby cities with my family. But just like Clark in Smallville, I always felt like there was a call to something more, to something greater. I just didn't know when that time would come. But then the moment came. It's 4 a.m., the day after Christmas. The car is packed. I took a deep breath, realizing I'm about to leave everything behind. From my family, my friends, my pet goldfish to start this new chapter. And the road ahead is unknown. And the weight of that realization, it's heavy on my chest. And you can only hear the sound of the quiet hum of the car engine as we begin to pull away. Now, as we embark from California to Florida, the world around me begins to shift. Everything feels different. From the places we stopped along the way, including a smoke-filled hotel room, these unfamiliar highways, and even a Mississippi cop who pulled over my dad for his California driving habits. Go figure, right? But all this seemed like small tests. But this was my own call to adventure, and there was no turning back. Next, the trials. Now, once I arrived in Florida, a whole new set of challenges emerged. Of course, there were the relentless mosquitoes. Go figure. But there was this overwhelming loneliness and the struggle to adapt to a life so far from family and friends. I realized that my biggest obstacle wasn't necessarily the physical distance, but it was the self-doubt that was creeping in. I remember I'd look in the mirror and ask myself, can I really do this on my own? But one day, I came across a quote from Nelson Mandela that helped me find strength, and it went, "The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid. The brave man is he who conquers that fear. You see, Nelson's words became a guiding force of wisdom and strength in my life. It inspired me to get involved in my local church and to find a group of friends that felt like family. You see, the trials and the journey proved to be the most transformational part in all of our lives. It's the moment we look to the sky and realize whether we have the capacity to make it or not. But every dark moment must come to light, and every journey has a resolution. Finally, the return. Eventually, I returned home. Everything seemed a little different from the streets I once knew. My pet goldfish again, and even my family all seemed familiar, yet changed. Or maybe I was the one who had changed. At one moment, I even noticed my grandparents aging, especially my grandpa, who was the man who took me on my very first cruise. He once said to my cousin, who was crying at the end of this wonderful trip, he says, "Son, life's not a cruise." Go figure. Thanks, Grandpa. But after embarking on my own journey, his words meant something more. It made me realize that you have to navigate the treacherous waters, embrace the unknown sea, and confront your inner self. Coming home also reminded me of the stories that shaped me when Superman returned to Smallville. You see, when he came back, he grew out his muscles a couple inches, he fell in love. But most of all, he had a stronger sense of his own identity and who he was. Finally, I realized that courage isn't about having superpowers, but it's about facing your fears head on. And the hero's journey isn't necessarily easy. If it were, we'd all be the fearless superheroes we see in the movies. But here's the thing. You don't need six-pack rockin' abs, a goldfish, or a cape to be a hero. You just have to face your fears head on. Ladies and gentlemen, the potential for greatness lies in each and every one of us. So ask yourself, what journey will you embark on? What hero will you become? Mr. Contest Chair.